Hi, and welcome to another episode of Talking B2B. Today we have an exciting show. You need to watch this because this is talking about how the need to make money drives the direction a business needs to go. So if you like this, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'm Dan White. I'm your host for today, and you are.
And I'm Don Sutcliffe. I'm the guest for today.
Yeah, and I'm really happy to have you here. So tell me a little bit about your business. We'll start there.
So I started my company probably in the neighborhood of about 15 years ago. We were focused on one thing specifically. We were demolition for salvage, principally salvage wood. We worked at that for a number of years. We built structures out of reclaimed wood. My passion was definitely for construction out of reclaimed materials, as I think you well know. And so we've been doing that for a while, and we had a series of what I consider to be pretty good ideas, and really kind of struggled with with a lot of those. They were good ideas, but maybe their time hadn't come.
Yeah.
And we kept getting a lot of calls for one particular part of the service. So when we would build our buildings, we were putting our own metal roofs on. And that, I kept saying, no, that's not what we do. We do this. I was trying to be focused on what we were doing. So.
Yeah. Well, I know you did quality work, and I sort of term it fake old.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, as you know, you built one for me, which is really cool. You even have a famous artist now who wants to take pictures and do a series of art based on your work. So your business took a turn, as I understand, but in a different direction. Could you tell me about that?
Well, we've been working, as I was sort of saying earlier, we'd been working on kind of one idea. We were heading in a very specific direction of building frames, and we were going to sell those frames, and there seemed to be an appetite in the market for what we were doing, but not a huge one. So we thought, well, if you build it, they will come. We'll work that way. All those sort of models that everybody talks about, and we wound up adjusting. But the truth was nobody came. Or they didn't come into meaningful numbers.
That means that money didn't come.
The money did not arrive. And so here we are with a great idea, a great product,
it was a fabulous idea.
No one's buying.
Yeah.
So what do you do with that?
Yeah.
But we did have this one small segment that there appeared to be an appetite for, which was the metal roof part of the projects, which was kind of a sidebar idea of what we were doing, and so we started exploring that. We said, well, if there's an appetite for it, we need money. There's no maybe about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So now you start getting into these metal roofs, and I understand you're both locally in the Durham region, the Kawarthas, and also in the city of Toronto. Why in the world would someone go to Toronto to do roofs? You know about the traffic there, the congestion, an hour to get a couple of blocks.
Sure.
Why Toronto?
Well, it really kind of comes down to one thing, and that is that that's where the opportunity was. That's where that particular market in this case, or the more difficult to access markets, tend to pay accordingly. They're accustomed to paying more for the things that they get because it's a premium to live in the denser the area, the more of a premium people seem to be willing to pay for it. And that includes construction products as well. So.
Okay. Well, being that the finances are really important, how do you address the fact that there's so much wasted time in Toronto, whereas if you're out in Kawartha Lakes, you just drive up, climb up the ladder, and go to work?
Well,
how do you address just that?
I mean, obviously, you have to put a specific number towards how much does it cost to sit in traffic for an hour, and that's built right into that's certainly built right into the pricing, and it's this particular product or opportunity would absorb that, and it seemed in fact the people that did, at least at this juncture, the people that did that work wouldn't go into those markets and do it, and we were willing to kind of absorb the costs, and they were certainly built into our work, and we're more than well paid to sit in traffic, as it were.
Yeah. So finances is what's driving you into the city.
Completely.
Yeah.
No, completely.
Not because that's where you want to be. It's the finances.
Well, we're certainly not. I would not describe this as chasing a passion by any description, but
well, and so it's not a passion to make money.
I'm enthusiastic about it because of the opportunities it affords me. And I mean, and it's a product, it's something, to be clear about that, it's something we do really well.
Yeah.
So, but I never got out of bed, leapt out of bed in the morning and said, geez, I hope I get to do this.
Yeah.
But what I'd found is that it's a there's an appetite for it in the market, a need for it, and in fact, we're not able to keep up to the need.
Wow.
So, we went from, a good idea that we were passionate about and adjusted our direction. Maybe it's just in the short term. Maybe it's in the long term. I don't know that yet. But I know that good ideas need funding.
That's right. Yeah.
And this is a great way to generate good cash flow.
So you haven't lost sight of the timber frame kits and historic buildings and things like that? You'd still take those jobs on?
No, I think that'll still long-term probably be a core of our business.
Yeah.
I think it was a good idea that maybe we were just ahead of the curve on. And that's as dangerous as being too late.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's for sure. Now, I know that you work quite a bit on your finances of your business. Could you tell me a little bit about how you approach your finances in your business?
Well, one of the things I learned, probably unfortunately, or maybe a little bit later in the game, was the importance of cash flow. And one of the things I like about this particular new venture is that it's a high turnover business. The market's got confusing and unnecessarily complicated with 90-day pay terms and 120-day pay terms. And the balance of that is that, if you have, a business that has, that pays quickly, then you're not into managing long-term finances. You really always got to know where you're at, which is enormously helpful.
Yeah, so these roofing jobs provide a more positive cash flow with fast payment.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so.
So in your business, do you budget your costs and what it's all about?
Oh, absolutely. It's, when we're estimating the cost of a project, the cost of the materials, the cost of the labor, the cost of travel, and all of the sort of secondary costs, tool maintenance, tool replacement, insurance, which is a huge factor in what we do, both government-based insurance and private liability. So those are real factors.
Now you're saying as well that there's, you talked about the different liabilities, all these government regulations. Like, how do you approach making sure that you're compliant with the government agencies?
Well, as you well know, the best place to start is good advice.
Yeah.
And I didn't know, and I'm good at what I do, and that's not, administrative tax assessment or compliance assessment. So the very first thing I did was that, okay, here's where I think I am. I need to pay someone to check my work.
Yeah.
And in this case, engaging, that's literally the foundation of our relationship is seeking out good advice. So.
Yeah, it's quite interesting when you get into a business. Like I've heard it said, or they used to say in the drywall industry, that a worker would climb down from the ladder, hanging up a sign that he's in business. And then our experience was that they didn't do their proper bookkeeping, they didn't do forecasting, they didn't do budgeting, and they thought that $1 in was $1 earned. They didn't understand they get to keep less than half of that by the time they're done. So most of them would fail. So it became this really important thing of understanding everything you have to comply with and the time that it takes. So in your business, how much time do you actually spend on administering your bookkeeping, your planning, your budgeting, your forecasting, setting up stuff, WSIB, all that stuff?
It's meaningful. It would be of my average day, it might be 20% of my time.
Wow.
That
sounds about right, though.
It could be larger than that, depending on, because we estimate a large number of projects. Our hit to miss ratio might be 20%. So if we're 1 in 5, well, then 4 of those were exercises in being better the next time.
Yeah. So when you're pricing a job, do you factor that in?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
The cost of estimating any, of all 5 projects is absorbed by the single project you win. It has to be.
Yeah.
It has to be a factor in your costing.
Okay. So when you're in bed at night trying to get to sleep, what are the things you would worry about?
Well, besides weather and
that's a factor.
and 100 factors we really can't control, I'm always mindful of reliability of labor. Safety is a huge factor in what we do, and the additional cost of being safe, which I would say is, again, we're now into a 10% or 15% cost of performance, because we have to perform it in a way that isn't necessarily intuitive, but is safer. So
Interesting. So in your business, do you have to compete with the guys that are sort of in the underground economy? And how does that have any effect on your business at all, that you're competing with them?
Oh, for sure it does. I mean, the material has a fixed cost wherever they're buying it. Offshore or non-Canadian made products are cheaper. We only work with the two largest principal makers of metal roofing in the country. So, but the majority of the people we're fortunate enough to work for seem to understand that you get what you pay for.
Yeah, that's good. That's the majority. Now, what advice would you give the guys working in the underground economy?
Be sure you're being properly compensated for the risk they're taking.
Now, that's a good point. Now, what risk would you say they're taking?
Well, I mean,
Aside from Canada Revenue Agency coming and destroying them,
but
other than that.
besides that sort of challenge, I mean, obviously they have because they're working underground. They don't enjoy the protections, as it were, of a system that can feel like it moves very slowly and is not helpful. They're fully liable, and no insurance policy in the world covers an underground job or an off the books job. It'd be a tough one to try to convince. It's one thing convincing the customer to cut a corner. It's another thing to, and I mean, part of that savings is the fact that they're not putting in the price of administration. They're not absorbing those costs, and that's always going to exist, but it's.
I don't know about always. They all fail, but anyway. So
well, no. I mean, as a principle,
Yes.
there'll always be somebody trying to circumvent, and that's. I can't say what's right for somebody else. So.
Yeah. Okay. So interesting. So I like what you're doing, and I especially like the fake old, which is really cool. But I like the fact that you're providing a needed service in Toronto. So if you were to tell our audience, why should they deal with Don Sutcliffe? Could you tell me in an elevator pitch why
Sure.
Don?
Two reasons principally. One is a commitment to quality, and once we take a contract. I mean, a lot of people say this, but I can wholly understand why a lot of people say it, because it's what most people are hoping for. But if people check references, which is something I always really encourage people to do, we check out very well. So that's that's a principal point why what we have to offer. The second part is the willingness or the focus on adapting to what is needed, as opposed to what we feel like providing. And that's strangely enough, that's not as common as I thought it would be. So I really feel like those are two sort of foundational things. There are other things we offer, but if the customer thought they needed one thing and we realized that no, it needs to be adapted radically to give the value, well, then we'll adapt, and we're quite willing to. We're actually excited about and feel like our opportunities are going to come from those willingness to adapt and adjust.
That sounds fabulous. Really appreciate you being on the show. Thanks very much.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, folks. And if you enjoyed that, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe.